I still remember everything like it happened yesterday. There she was, in her white sundress, standing on the edge of the sidewalk, grey eyes cutting through the night air and straight into me. Cars and trucks sweeping past behind her, with the wind carrying her hair every which way, like oak trees in a storm. That sad, sad smile. I had just dumped her.
It would be funny.
She says sadly.
It would be funny if you woke up in a few years and realized something.
Realized what? I say.
If you realized that what you felt about me can't happen again. That this is what love is like. And you walked away from it.
She says. And then she is there. And then she is walking backwards. What are you doing? I say. Into the traffic.
We could have had a good life together.
She says. And then she is everywhere. I met Giada, or Gigi as I came to know her, at a lonely time when I just moved to Melbourne. I had come from way out west, from a small town a few quiet kilometers from Ballarat. I had high hopes and dreams about making it as a highly paid engineer, and I had to go out into the concrete jungle to pull it off. But it's hard to make friends when you're in the middle of a city. Everyone's far too rushed, far too involved in their own lives to be human. I spent a good few months living alone without talking to anyone. My co-workers were just that, co-workers. They were uninterested in mixing up their private and work lives. At some point, I had to admit to myself that I was lonely. And then she came along. She was a barista in one of those small laneway cafes scattered around the city. It was a beautiful day when I first saw her, with the floral bandana she used to hold her hair up. She was whipping up a couple of cappuccinos, her rugged hands firmly set on the milk frother. She shouted over the loud hissing of the machine. "A double espresso, thanks," I said, as loudly as I could.
What?
She said. "A double espresso," I said, louder. She pushed the button to turn off the frother for a bit.
It's called a doppio. I know. But my boss insists I tell everyone that.
Why? I asked her. "A coffee is a coffee."
Yeah, well,
She said.
Stupid bosses are stupid bosses.
An older man walked up behind her and pinched the skin on her waist, hard. Irritated look on his face. He must be the boss, I thought. She squealed and wriggled out of the way and gave him a wink that said, I'm kidding. Then she flicked the frother back on, and I could hear her laugh over the whirring of the machine. I started looking forward to visiting her after that. From then on, I walked up every day to her shop to steal a couple of seconds of conversation before getting back to work. I slowly came to realize that she was hilarious and a little bit nuts. Exactly my kind of girl. Slowly, she eventually got to know me as well. She found out about the place where I came from, and she often made jokes about me being some country bumpkin. She would make fun of my clothes at times and tell me to change my wardrobe. I would make fun of her for being overbearingly hipster. Eventually, I started coming over for lunch and afternoon tea as well. On one night, after a long day of work, I found myself having tea on the corner of her shop, just before the time they closed. It was just us in the cafe. I was slumped down on one of the tables, trying to will myself to stand up and walk home. She was wiping down the counters, and then she suddenly stopped.
Screw this,
she said. Long day, I replied.
Yup,
she said.
Let's chill for a while. I can't handle this.
She plugged her phone into the aux cable leading to the cafe's sound system, slumped against one of the old wooden chairs scattered around her shop. She closed her eyes, draped a towel over her face, and tilted her hair back. We sat like that for a while. Hey, I have an idea, I said. I turned down the dimmer on the store's tracking lights and turned the volume up on the sound system. I took my lighter out and lit one of the candle stubs that lay on the tables. See, I said, isn't this calming? She threw her head back, laughing heartily.
It seems more seductive than calming. Are you trying to be romantic, Carl?
She said. Maybe I am, I said. Is it working? She curled her thin lips into a sly smile.
Maybe a little. It's corny as hell, but it's working a little.
I leaned in for a kiss. Things went really well after that, if only for a while. I ended up visiting her a little less, as we spent some weekdays hanging out at her place. She had such a high-energy job that she spent the bulk of her time at home watching TV and getting high. For a few weeks, I started to look forward to the times when I could visit her place with a tub of ice cream and caramel popcorn. I would knock on her door with a bunch of flowers. Jonquils were always her favorite, and she would greet me with a light slap on the face and that wry smile. On some days, I'd want to come over, and she'd tell me that she needed her space. And that was fine. I respected that, and I liked having time to myself as well. But on most nights, we'd just sit and slump over her couches, our heads too fucked from the weed, watching bad TV until we passed out. On one of those nights, we were lying down on her bed while we waited for an episode of The Blacklist to load. It had been a solid 10 minutes since it stopped playing, but time is on a stasis when you're on pot. I put an arm around her, and she cuddled up next to me.
Are you happy like this?
She suddenly whispered. Like what? I replied.
Like this. Not doing anything. Just chilling out. Being lazy. Whiling out the hours.
She said, looking up at me. Yeah, I said, pausing for a moment to think. I do like to do stuff, but I like to do whatever makes me happy. And you know what? This is making me happy right now. She giggled and gave me a light bite on the chest.
You're such a cheeseball. Jesus, that hurts
I laughed,
me sometimes.
and we held each other for a while. I could hear the cars zip by the road next to her house, tram bells ringing from a distance, the rapid clicking of a pedestrian walk sign, the mellow conversations of the people passing by, muted sounds filtering through her open bedroom window.
You love me, don't you?
She suddenly said.
Like, I think it's all obvious.
You could say that, I replied.
I have baggage.
She whispered. I could hear her voice almost snapping in half.
I have a lot of baggage. Baggage you don't know about yet. I just want to know if you're going to be cool with that.
I kissed her on the forehead. I think I'll be okay, Gigi, I said. I think I can handle it. Love makes you do all sorts of crazy things. But one thing they don't tell you is that it makes you overestimate yourself. It's a bit like being drunk. You think you could maybe make that jump if you tried hard enough? You think that maybe nothing can break you? You think you could maybe be invincible? But you're not. And I was like that for a while. Over time, she exposed a few parts of herself that she didn't let anyone see. It was the angry bouts of depression that hit me most. She would go on for a whole day at times, slumped on the floor of her apartment, staring at the ceiling, almost catatonic with dread. She would play sad songs and curl up on the corner, and she wouldn't reply when I tried to talk to her. I would try to ply her with sweets and flowers, but she would sit there with her knees bent against her chin, unable to move. The next day, she would be fine and smiling. She would try to apologize in many different ways. She'd buy me lunch, ply me with sex, be a little bit more affectionate than usual. It was almost like she was buying her apologies with favors.
I am so fucking sorry about yesterday. I was so lame.
She'd say, her words reeking of something sad and desperate, but trying to mask it with a smile. It's okay, Gigi, I'd say, with a strained smile. I can handle it. I told you I'd handle it. One time, she was driving her car on one of the outer suburbs after a party. I was a little drunk, and so was she, but she was in a better state to get us home. We were slowly cruising through the back streets while I was nodding off. Suddenly, I felt a sharp swerve and felt the car driving off the road. I opened my eyes. The bumper of the car was planted against the fences of a house, pots and flowers broken against the hood. Gigi opened her door and quickly ran outside, sprinting towards the front of her car. She had forgotten to put it in park. I watched as she bent towards the mess of the posies and dark soil, crying. She clutched the broken branches and leaves closer to her face, and she whispered,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
She sobbed and sobbed, visible through the broken headlights, and I sat inside the car as I suddenly realized that she went to places where I couldn't reach her, couldn't help her at all. I like to think that I did everything I could, but maybe I could have done more. There is an exhaustion that sets in when you're trying to pick up someone from the ground. It's a kind of tiredness that makes you realize that caring has a cost. Making yourself responsible for someone's happiness has a cost. But I tried. Maybe not my best, but I tried. She was fantastic when she was fine, but I sat with her for long nights when she wasn't. When she was her old self, we'd hang out, and sometimes I could pretend that we were in that coffee shop again, bantering our way to get through the week. When she wasn't, I stayed awake with her, lying on the floor alongside her, when she was too terrified of the world to move. Sometimes I came to resent that. And in a bout of selfishness on my side, I came to resent it more. The small part of me that was tired and sleepless grew and grew, like a tumor on my side. And in a bout of crooked selfishness, I decided that I had to let go. I steeled myself with a couple of whiskey shots from the bar next door. I had no illusions that what I was going to do was a good thing. I was abandoning someone. I was going to abandon her. I called her. She answered after 2 rings.
Hey, Carl.
She said with a smile in her voice.
You gonna come over tonight? I miss you.
Gigi, we need to talk, I started. Sudden silence on the other end. Listen, I've been doing some thinking, and I think I need a little space, I continued. I could hear a sharp sigh on the other end. More silence. I forged on ahead anyway. I just need some time to recharge. Maybe a bit, you know? Things have been a bit intense lately.
You said you'd be here for me.
She whispered. I just need a bit of time is all, I replied.
You said you could handle it, Carl. You said you could handle it.
Muffled sobs on the other end. I'm sorry, G. It turns out that I can't after all. I'm so fucking sorry. The line was live for a while. We were on opposite ends of a call, both saying nothing, just taking it all in. I forced myself to listen as she tried to muffle herself, stop herself from crying. In a way, it was like all the other times I laid on the floor with her. But this was the last time.
Okay.
She finally said.
Okay, I understand. But can you meet me one last time at least? You owe me one last date.
I said yes. There she was, in her white sundress, standing on the edge of the sidewalk, grey eyes cutting through the night air and straight into me. Cars and trucks sweeping past behind her, with the wind carrying her hair every which way, like oak trees in a storm. That sad, sad smile. I had just dumped her.
It would be funny.
She says sadly.
It would be funny if you woke up in a few years and realized something.
Realized what? I say.
If you realized that what you felt about me can't happen again. That this is what love is like. And you walked away from it.
She says. And then she is there. And then she is walking backwards. What are you doing? I say. Into the traffic.
We could have had a good life together.
She says. And then she is everywhere. The rest is a blur of siren lights and police cars and ambulances and interviews and questions and family and phone calls and whatever else, and it hurts to think about, so I let it take over me and I let myself go numb. I see myself walking forward, but I'm not there. She's not here. She's everywhere. And she's gone. And then I'm taking my copy of her apartment keys, and I'm walking, but I don't want to. I do, anyway. The lights are on, but no one's home, and I'm on automatic, and a part of me tries to replay what just happened. But everything just shuts down. And I unlatch the doors to her apartment, the same door that I hung outside with, and waited with ice creams and flowers, and the place smells like she still lives here, and in here is everything that she owns. And I stop remembering the bad times, and I remember only the highlights with her in the coffee shop, and the candles, and her laugh, and the caramel popcorn, and making fun of me. And it's a wave I'm trying to hold back because I don't want to feel it when it comes, but it's coming anyway. I walk towards her bedroom. Her sheets are a mess. And it's not until I see what's on the bed that it all calms down and I realize that life is broken now and will always be. It was a pregnancy test with 2 bright red lines.